While Europe was engulfed in flames, half a world away, another conflict, just as vast and brutal, was raging across the Pacific Ocean. This was the Pacific War, a clash of empires fueled by Japan's insatiable imperial ambitions against the Western powers, primarily the United States. It was a war defined by its unique geography, a seemingly endless chain of islands that had to be conquered one by one. It was a war of naval supremacy, where colossal fleets battled for control of the seas. And it was a war characterized by a fanatical ideology that often meant fighting to the very last breath. The world changed forever on December 7, 1941. The surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, a day that President Franklin D. Roosevelt declared would live in infamy, was a calculated gamble by Japan to cripple the U.S. Pacific Fleet. The attack was devastatingly successful in the short term, and it thrust a stunned and enraged America directly into the heart of World War II. But Pearl Harbor was only the beginning. In the months that followed, the rising sun flag seemed unstoppable. The Japanese war machine rolled across Southeast Asia and the Pacific with terrifying speed and efficiency. The Philippines, the supposedly impregnable fortress of Singapore, and the British colony of Hong Kong all fell in rapid succession. For the Allied soldiers defending these territories, the defeats were not just military setbacks, they were personal catastrophes. The losses were immense, and for those who survived to become prisoners of war, a new and more terrifying ordeal was just beginning. The treatment of these prisoners was a dark stain on the history of warfare. A chilling example of this brutality is the Bataan Death March. In April 1942, after the surrender of American and Filipino forces on the Bataan Peninsula, some 75,000 prisoners were forced to march over 60 miles to prison camps. They were given little food or water and were subjected to unspeakable cruelty by their captors. Thousands died along the way from exhaustion, starvation, disease, or simply at the hands of their guards. The Bataan Death March became a powerful and horrifying symbol of the Pacific War's particular brand of barbarity. This wasn't just about conquering territory. It was a conflict marked by a deliberate and systematic dehumanization of the enemy, a mindset that would define the battles to come. For months the Allies were on the defensive, reeling from one defeat after another. But the tide had to turn. That turning point began in the dense, steamy jungles of an island few had ever heard of, Guadalcanal. Starting in August 1942, the Battle for Guadalcanal marked the first major Allied land offensive against the Empire of Japan. What followed was 6 months of relentless, brutal combat. This wasn't a war of grand maneuvers. It was a desperate, close-quarters struggle fought in stifling heat, torrential rain, and thick, unforgiving jungle. The conditions were as deadly as the enemy. Soldiers on both sides battled not just each other, but also malaria, dysentery, and starvation. It was a meat grinder, a war of attrition in its purest, most horrifying form. Victory was measured in yards of mud, and survival was often a matter of sheer luck. A young Marine from Ohio, Private First Class Joe Miller, captured the grim reality in a letter home. He wrote, "The jungle tries to kill you before the Japs even get a chance. The heat, the bugs, the rain that never stops. Every day you wonder if you'll see the next sunrise." His words echo the experience of hundreds of thousands of men who fought there. For many, that next sunrise never came. The casualty rates on Guadalcanal were staggering for both sides, but it was a battle the Allies, with their superior industrial capacity and supply lines, could afford to win, and one Japan could not afford to lose. The Allied victory there marked a crucial shift in the momentum of the Pacific War. As we examine the Pacific theater, it's essential to grasp the sheer scale of the human cost, which extends far beyond the famous island battles. The numbers are almost too large to comprehend. While the war in Europe often dominates our historical memory, the suffering in Asia was immense. During Japan's long and brutal occupation of China, it is estimated that between 10 to 15 million Chinese civilians perished. This is a staggering tragedy, one that is too often overlooked in Western accounts of the war. The sheer loss of innocent life is a testament to the war's widespread devastation. For the Allied military forces, the cost was also high, with hundreds of thousands killed in action across the vast theatre of operations. But the losses for Japan were catastrophic. Over 2 million Japanese soldiers died. What often shocked and confounded Allied forces was the cultural context of these deaths. The Bushido Code, with its emphasis on death before dishonor, led many Japanese soldiers to fight to the last man or even take their own lives rather than surrender. This profound cultural difference created a battlefield dynamic of unparalleled ferocity and left a legacy of horror and misunderstanding that lingered long after the guns fell silent. The Pacific War was not just a clash of armies, but a clash of worlds, and its echoes are still felt today. Thank you for joining us on this journey into one of history's most pivotal and brutal conflicts. If you found this video informative, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into history. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss our next episode. We'll see you next time.